Mario Sunshine, a necessity for gracious living.
There are no gaming characters out there who are even close to as iconic as Super Mario, further backed up by the recent success of his box office movie. He would dominate during the 8-bit era, innovate in the 16-bit era, and then establish the platforming genre again on the Nintendo 64. It seemed for this mustachioed plumber that he could really do no wrong, but one day something happened. And that something was Super Mario Sunshine. Released 6 years after the groundbreaking Super Mario 64, the highly anticipated Sunshine would go down in history as the most divisive entry in the series yet, which was partially down to the weird additional mechanics it featured, such as FLUDD. The GameCube audience would end up being tiny compared to the NES, with many wondering if Nintendo's time in the sunshine was over, with Mario's outing on the hardware not favouring the console. But despite its shortcomings, as the only mainline Mario game from its respective generation, it's an essential part of history. Today, its legacy has even been celebrated on 8-bit hardware, so in this video we will discuss where and why.
I am Lady Decade and this is Mario Sunshine for the NES.
By this point, remakes of classic and modern games on more rudimentary hardware certainly isn't anything new. But that never stops it being any less cool when you see a polygonal-based game reimagined in 8-bit. Recently on this channel we looked at a section of an NES game that featured an entire world based around Super Mario Galaxy, drawing tons of inspiration from the critically acclaimed Wii title. I won't comment any more on this here, as I've already made an entire video about this, but what is poignant, a world based on Super Mario Sunshine can be found in the same game. The title I speak of is a ROM hack of Super Mario Bros. 3. Known as Super Mario Bros. 3 Mix, a game many consider the greatest Mario ROM hack ever. Fortunately, to help me with today's video, I have had the pleasure of talking to the hack's creator, Captain Southbird, who has been a wonderful participant in my Discord server, so feel free to join the server too if you like. Southbird describes 3 Mix as not just a homage to Super Mario Bros. 3, but all the Mario games until Galaxy, with part of the purpose of 3 Mix being the idea of exploring what these newer Mario games would be like if they had been released in the NES timeframe.
Very interesting.
Regarding such a concept, obviously it's entirely up to interpretation of how these 3D games could look on old hardware. Southbird jokes that he likes to think that his interpretation is at least recognisable. Like many gamers of a certain age, Super Mario Bros. 3 was a significant game to him growing up. This was the first time he saw something with background music and a scrolling playfield. Reading all about these stages and secrets within a Nintendo Power Guide made the game seem huge to him too. This spurred interest for Southbird in computer science, with him dreaming of programming a game of his own. However, during his 15 years as a software developer, he would ultimately spend most of his time making business web apps. Still, this dream never died, and eventually Southbird created 3 Mix, feeding his inner child's soul by giving his best attempt at being a game programmer, even if only for a moment. Given its reputation online, there's no argument that he succeeded in his endeavour. I plan to do a deep dive into the history of 3 Mix in the future, so for now let's dig into the Mario Sunshine part of things. While some people have fond memories of playing Mario Sunshine, like most people, Southbird didn't pay it much attention on release, and has gained more experience as a passive watcher of the game rather than a player. He admits that it has its charms, but it's not a game he has particular attachment to. Like with most people though, his mind had been blown by the previous generation with the release of Super Mario 64, although he initially struggled with the controls. This was due to having to factor in so much depth perception after living through a childhood that mainly consisted of playing 2D platformers or arcade games. What he did garner from his time with Sunshine was that the controls were much better, things felt fluid, the colours were vibrant, and the music was fun. Lots was done right.
See, we can say nice things about Mario Sunshine.
As for the worlds based on Sunshine within 3Mix, the map features an 8-bit rendition of the Bianco Hills stage from the GameCube cult favourite. Stage 6-1 is interesting as it imitates the paint pollution found throughout Mario Sunshine. In this affair, it all appears black due to the NES's limited colour palette, with it obviously not feasible to be as colourful as Sunshine. The paint leaks everywhere, polluting the area just like in the original. Mario must wade his way through pools of it throughout the stage, with the paint leaking off of bushes, providing a varied environment for players to traverse. Stage 6-2 is, in my opinion, even more Sunshine, with much of the scenery looking very clearly like what can be found in Delfino Plaza. In fact, the building which Mario can jump across looks familiar, and the stage is littered with Chuckster, who, you guessed it, can chuck Mario from the ground up to the rooftops. Southbird comments that this was a fun mechanic to implement, and jokes that he thinks the feature is less terrifying in a 2D scape when you're sent flying. This stage's 2D interpretation of Delfino Plaza and the rest of the island from the game is impressive.
Great stuff.
If you play Stage 6-3, what you experience may instantly feel familiar, but that familiarity is obviously generated from playing another Mario game, Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins. Remember when we said that this game celebrates the whole Mario franchise's lineage up until the point of release? Well, that certainly seems accurate. Southbird describes this as a filler level to mix things up. He spent much time pouring through Sunshine content, thinking about what things he could adapt to the 2D realm. Running out of ideas, he chose something a little more random instead. Further, he comments that it is thematical with Sunshine, as Sunshine has those weird sub-dimension areas that were often surreal. So it's not terribly impossible to imagine something like this could have been in 8-bit Sunshine.
Clever.
Moving on to the first castle stage of World 6, it plays out very differently to those found in the original version of Super Mario Bros. 3, as this entire mini-fortress is plant-themed. Southbird quips that this features the totally not recoloured lava purple goo of death that seems to plague the Mario Plantverse. Most importantly of all though, it includes an, in my opinion, very cool boss fight. A showdown with P.T. Piranha, a classic boss from the original Super Mario Sunshine game. Like in the 3D polygonal game, P.T. Piranha flies around the sky above, often trying to ground pound the player. He can be defeated by jumping a few times on his head. Nice. Southbird would choose to make Stage 6-4 a water level with the addition of a hidden casino, which refers to the one found in Sunshine. The 3Mix creator comments that it is a pretty ridiculous bonus room since there's very little chance of a penalty and a great chance to earn tons of lives. Reflecting back, he said he could have made it a little more dangerous and included randomly spawning boos or something like that. Risk versus reward could have made this section even better. World 6 in this game also contains a ghost house inspired by Super Mario World. Much of this stage subtly trains players for what is coming up in World 7, the Super Mario Galaxy themed one I covered in a previous episode. The stage features an interesting gravity mechanic, a prelude to the upcoming galaxy. Building this stage, Southbird comments that he was also inspired by the original Super Mario Bros. 3, which has a secret area in a World 4 mini-fortress, essentially a miniature vertical pipe maze. The second castle of the world features similar themes to the previous one, but features logs in the purple goo of death, with inspiration being drawn from New Super Mario Bros. The black paint pollution and a more brutal rematch with P.T. Piranha are also present. Like any Super Mario Bros. 3 world, World 6 in 3Mix culminates with an airship stage. While not particularly Super Mario Sunshine themed, the stage is still exciting and different to anything that can be found in Super Mario Bros. 3. Amusingly, the entire stage is vertical, even though that doesn't make sense with a ship. But Southbird was very happy with it as it was different. Exploring the interior of a ship rather than just the deck also makes this stage stand out from the ones in the NES Classic. To achieve this, internal coding changes were required to make vertical stages work with typically non-vertical tile generators. Southbird comments that a bit of his handicraft is in here for a one-off gag. Players finish the stage by fighting against Bowser Jr. in a clown car, a character who first came to prominence in Mario Sunshine.
So there's that too.
Reflecting back on the development of World 6, Southbird also adds that one of his favourite features in this part of the game was the Mario Bros-esque crab mini-battles on the map. Something a bit different from generically battling something, and another cool callback to another portion of Mario's history. He is also fond of the chuckster mechanics, the casino, and his weird vertical airship. After all, who wouldn't be? Little specialised deviations like this make the world unique compared to other parts of the game. Given all NES limitations, the creator is also proud of how well PT Sprite came together. He comments large sprite construction in Mario 3 or any NES game really is always kind of quirky business, and you risk hitting limitations like 8 sprites per line, a rule that's baked into the hardware. He adds that the most challenging aspect of pulling all of this together was finding things from Sunshine that would be feasible to replicate in the Super Mario Bros. 3 engine. It was tough to do as a primary element of Sunshine was cleaning up paint off of surfaces, so there was practically nothing he could work with in this case. Retrospectively, he concludes that if he had to do it all over, he's not sure he would make a world for Sunshine, maybe just a level here or there. However, I think he is a perfectionist, considering that so many consider this game to be the magnum opus of Mario ROM hacks. But then again, would this hack be so amazing in the first place if it wasn't made by someone who is so analytical of their work? Anyway, if you enjoyed this one, subscribe to mine and Captain Southbird's YouTube channels, links pinned in the comments. Then check out my video on Mario Galaxy for the NES. Bye!